Alright, guys. This is the movie review for this week. And as you can see by that image I have for the first few seconds of the video, I am reviewing one of the few movies that many consider to be good, with Adam Sandler as the lead and probably one of the main contributors to the entire creation of the movie, Wedding Singer. And this movie, I think the best way to sum it up is a love story that's also a love letter to the 80s music, the rock and roll, the really goofy, dated, big hair, crazy outfits and stuff. It's just kind of. It's funny because that's the kind of aesthetic that it has, but when you really think about it, the story it is telling is pretty timeless. The music and the fact that they're hammering in so much music from the 80s, it is overkill. And as my friend pointed out, a lot of movies from the 80s, they had some 80s music, but they would also have stuff from, like, way back when. I mean, a great example is the Blues Brothers. I mean, a lot of that's just 80s covers of classic blues music. So anyway, the movie, for those of you who don't know, and seeing how this movie isn't as popular as Jurassic Park, you can watch that video on my YouTube channel, Mike Abler, if you're watching this and you like what you're hearing. So, this movie isn't as popular as the last movie I reviewed, so I think there's probably more than just a handful of people who don't know the plot. The plot is, shockingly enough, about a wedding singer. Um, So Adam Sandler plays Robbie Hart, who knows how to give people nothing but a good time. And no, that's a Poison reference to one of their best songs. And I am not going to have as many 80s references in this video as there are in the movie, but I'm going to try. Um, so Robbie is about to get married. He's about to get married the day after the opening scene, which we see is the first gig we see him do in the movie. And he ends up getting jilted at the altar with his fiance not even showing up. Yeah, so yeah, it was a bad note that she left him when his yeah, okay. Yeah. This whole review is just gonna be me doing references to the movie and references to other 80s things. So I'll try to stop. If you've seen the movie and you know a lot of 80s stuff, you're probably gonna have a lot of fun watching this video. And this is not scripted, by the way. This is all me just saying what I think. So Robbie, feeling heartbroken, his life starts falling apart, but then he ends up turning his life around by helping a waitress at the ballroom he works at with her planning her wedding. I think you can pretty much figure where this is going. You can pretty much tell that the Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler, they're gonna fall in love. There's gonna be some convoluted, confusing storyline about why they don't think they're right for each other. They think they're in love. Sandler thinks that Barrymore is in love with someone else. The person that Barrymore is about to marry, she doesn't want to marry, and the ex fiance and Barrymore's fiance turns out to be a womanizing jerk, and of course there's some crazy sappy happy ending that would never happen in real life but happens in this movie, and it does result in a happy ending for the characters. So that's basically what happens. And to go into the content wise, um Sandler's character, I mean, it's still Adam Sandler. I can kind of tell it's just him being, a typical nice guy, sort of. He kind of, he's kind of mellow when he's not angry. He can be kind of mellow, but then at the same time, he can go from being this cool, calm guy to cartoonishly angry. And the two best scenes that show him being a rational person to cartoonishly angry is the scene where his ex fiance. There's two scenes. One is when his ex fiance meets up with Robbie at Robbie's sister's house, since Robbie's living in his sister's basement, and she basically says that she is not in love with Robbie because he doesn't seem to have that ambition and that drive to want to be a rock star like when they first met. And she basically hammers in very rudely why she thinks he's a failure and that she's leaving him because he doesn't have her lofty ambitions. Which, okay, before I get to that, Robbie's reaction, which is which is my favorite line in the movie. I can kind of see where the ex fiance is coming from, surprisingly, because I mean, if you know you're about to settle down with someone who used to have ambition but isn't trying to use that to his or her advantage, I can understand why that would be frustrating. But the timing and the moment she chose to do this was very ill advised. If you really had, this is one of my big criticisms with the movie. I know it's for dramatic effect and all, but if this was really bothering you for 6 years, why did you agree to marry this guy, and why did you not say something sooner than the would-be day of your wedding? And I think Adam Sandler says it best when he hears all the stuff that kind of got on his ex fiance's nerves, and he seems to be very calm and composed. But then when she says, you're a loser, Sandler's like, once again, things that could have been brought to my attention yesterday. So I just love how he screams that, and that's kind of the point where it's like, okay, yeah. I think Sandler's character was just saying that just I don't think he was saying that to try and desperately angle for redemption. I think he was just saying that to kind of tell her off. Yeah. For a 23-year-old, I don't seem to be that bright if I'm just coming to that conclusion now. Yeah, anyway. And another scene that I think is really good at bringing up how cartoonishly angry Sandler can get to strong effect is the scene where he's crying and falling apart at the wedding gig he does right after he got abandoned. And and one of the people at the wedding he's working at is berating him for not solely providing music, and also because he's trying to be too much of a beatnik, the depressed, the sadness, yeah. And so, and by the way, if I got that wrong, I believe that's how a beatnik is, but at the same time, if I am wrong, correct me in the comments below, and if anyone watches this video and doesn't care, great, but by all means, if I'm wrong about the beatnik thing, by all means, tell me in the comment. I didn't really have time to look this up. So the man is saying, "Look, dude, I'm paying you to sing, not to give your thoughts on life." And then Adam Sandler is like, he goes from being and this is how he does it. Well, I have a microphone, so you will listen to every damn word I have to say. So those are just two examples of how Sandler can play a nice, humble, down-to-earth guy, but then go from calm to crazy in a matter of seconds. And I feel like with the way this movie is written and the way Sandler is provided, I feel like if he was playing characters like that throughout his career, and he had legitimately funny scripts that didn't rely too much on the sophomore humor, I think he'd have a lot more hit movies to his credit like this one. And I don't know, the chemistry between him and Barrymore, there is some chemistry there. It's a lot more than some love stories out there. And yes, I'm referring to Twilight, among others. But I just don't think the chemistry is that strong. That's one of my biggest complaints with the movie, is that I can buy the friendship between Barrymore and Sandler, but I don't buy the romance that much, because I don't really see that many scenes where and I know that Sandler just got jilted, and I know that Barrymore is about to marry someone else, but it's like, if we're supposed to buy that these people are falling for each other, you could at least give us, several more sparks in what we're getting. So I feel like the romance is sweet, but it's just there's it it kind of feels like Sandler and Barrymore are just falling in love because the script is telling them to, and the script also happens to have some charm for us to buy it, but it's not as much chemistry as um say anything, or even a lot of the Disney characters had more chemistry than Sandler and Barrymore in this movie. And that's really saying something when your G-rated family musical movies that many people mock for being safe have characters of more chemistry than two adult characters in a PG-13 movie. That's saying something, because PG-13 you can get away with a lot more in theory. Um, but yeah, honestly, I still think this movie is great, even though there's some sophomore jokes that really fall flat. I mean, they're not even dead on arrival. It's like they're dead the minute they're shot out of the gun, and they just don't hit anything. It's like a poor marksman. It just all it does is misses the target. But most of the jokes are pretty funny. A lot of people who see this movie quote a lot of the scenes. And as far as the music's concerned, the music's actually really good. When Sandler's not doing a vocal impression of an 80s rock star, like with Somebody Kill Me, where he's doing a heavy metal, hard rock kind of thing, when he's just using his natural singing voice, like in the climax when he's singing his Come Back to Me love song to Barrymore, without giving too much away, but he does sing a song to try and win her back, and it is a very sweet, innocent song. And it's basically showing how much of a sweet gentleman that, the Robbie Hart character really is, even though he's still kind of this goofy person from time to time. But yeah, I feel like if Sandler tried to pick scripts that were around the same level of effective of Wedding Singer, if not more so, I don't think we'd be, you know, throwing Rotten Tomatoes and empty beer bottles at him every time he tried to be funny. And I think so my final thoughts are the movie is very good, and this is the only Adam Sandler movie I've seen, and I know there's a bunch of other Sandler movies that people might suggest, but as far as I'm concerned, this is really the only Sandler movie I really wanted to see, because I'm a musician, I love music, I really love 80s stuff, so yeah, this was a no-brainer to watch it. It's a lot of fun. There's some really funny scenes in it. The chemistry is a little weak, but isn't as weak as some other movies. And yeah, I think it's actually a really good movie. So if you're looking for a goofy comedy to watch, or a musical to watch, or something that's a mix of both, then I would say watch Hairspray. Um, well, actually, if you want to watch two movies that fit that bill, watch Wedding Singer and then Hairspray. Okay, so yeah, both movie Wedding Singer is a great movie, and see it if you haven't already.